All right, so just want to introduce myself. My name is Chris Holguin. I'm an associate director in the Office of Student Involvement. Some of my main responsibilities deal with leadership programming as well as advising the SGA and working with our multicultural student organizations as well. So again, working with a lot of students within these student leadership positions, and I'm excited to be here with y'all today, as I know talking about yourself can sometimes be an obstacle, and just being able to practice with that with you today. So with that said, I'll turn it over to Shirley.
Hi, everyone. My name is Shirley Konneh. For those of you who don't know me, I am an assistant director working in the Center for Career Development. I particularly work with students who are interested in health professions and life sciences, as well as science, technology, and engineering. So thank you for being here during this time, on your break. You're so special, truly. So let's get started. I'm going to do this lovely presentation for you. I hope you enjoy. Please let me know if for whatever reason you cannot see my screen, or I don't know, if something funky happens. So today we are going to talk about marketing your liberal arts education. Today's goals, we are going to talk about how to articulate your skills and knowledge gained from your liberal arts education. I'm going to talk to you about how to sell yourself using your elevator pitch and wonderful ways on how to respond to interview questions, and then also introducing to you traditional and behavioral based questions that will most likely appear not only right after college, but pretty much throughout your life. And even if you retire and decide to be on some boards or volunteer, you're gonna get asked these questions. So it's always good to be prepared. So first, with regards to the benefits of a liberal arts education, what you need to ask yourself is, what skills, knowledge, and abilities have you gained that would be of interest to employers? So I know from my experience in the past with a liberal arts education, a lot of these like core critical skills are embedded in the curriculum. You don't even realize these critical thinking and problem solving skills that you've acquired while you do these classes or some type of projects or your seminars. A lot of these things will be of benefit to you for employers, to show them the skills that you've acquired and why you as an individual receiving a liberal arts education will add value to their company and what you can bring to them. So in terms of what those things are, in terms of a liberal arts education, we have a list here, and we'll actually also go over what employers expect. So open-mindedness, problem-solving skills, leadership skills, of course, for those of you who are in leadership roles in your various clubs and organizations, the ability to conduct research on your own, ask those questions that nobody wants to ask, the hypotheses that you come up with during your research. Social responsibility, it's pretty much like ingrained in our mission statement, men and women for others, and social justice, and just standing up for what is right. Having a well-rounded education, right? So we don't force any type of STEM requirements down your throat. You have the opportunity to explore classics or philosophy, and certain things that you've learned from there, how it can benefit the organization that you want to apply to or work at. Critical thinking skills, the ability to pose meaningful questions. I know a lot of teachers are not just talking directly at you. They want you to ask meaningful questions and how this, can benefit life or help in other situations or help people. It makes you want to be a lifelong learner, that's for sure. And that's what I've seen in examples with other graduates from a liberal arts college, just always wanting to learn, always wanting to ask questions, not just settling for the status quo. Communication skills, so the ability to articulate your responsibilities or the projects or research you've done effectively in a manner that people can understand it, no matter what level they are at or what their background is. And sensitivity to individuals and cultural differences. Obviously, we try to do a good job of being an inclusive campus, multicultural office, having diversity inclusion office. We really try, and again, it is embedded in our mission. So these are your benefits that you should really start to think about and see, you know, over the last 4 years, what you have done in your classes, your coursework, um, volunteerism, and especially in your organizations. What have you done that really ties to this, and how can you articulate that to employers? So key competencies that employers are looking for, we were able to obtain this information from NACE. They are like the National Association for Career something something. I probably should have gotten that correctly, but I'm sorry. But they're pretty big, and they do a lot of research on what employers are looking for now. And you know, back then, like a few years ago, everybody was like, you know, STEM and STREAM, and this is what's moving forward. This is our future. And you know, what we've learned, not to knock anybody in STEM, but what we've learned over time from employers is, even though people are at those, you know, top level research universities, it's hard for them to communicate with not just their peers and be able to interact with their peers, but just communicate what they're doing in general. The ability to give presentations on their findings, you know, interpersonal soft skills, because, you know, you can be extremely smart, but you also have to be a team player. So that's what we've learned from employers over the last few years. So what they're looking for in an employee moving forward is what I have listed here: critical thinking, the ability to problem solve, right? Anything can happen at the drop of a dime. COVID, that is a great way to explain to employers how you deal with crises, okay? Please, like, jot down everything you've done, like the fact that Holy Cross closed in a matter of 48 hours and we switched from, you know, campus life to online learning, and how you were able to navigate, you know, searching for internships or full-time jobs during this time, and to keep that employment. And if you, you know, I'm sorry if you happen to lose an employment opportunity during this time, but then how did you navigate after that? How did you bounce back and continue with the job search? So everything that you're doing, definitely keep that at the top of your mind, because being able to explain to employers that, yes, I have problem solving skills, not only from the liberal arts education that I obtained, but being able to navigate during this pandemic. Oral and written communication skills is what they're looking for: teamwork and collaboration, digital technology, leadership, professionalism, and work ethic. I hope we give enough workshops in order to show you how to behave professionally in work environments. If you were able to attend my senior alumni reception, we had a networking event on, you know, the etiquette and the art of networking, and how to behave properly and professionally. Also, things that employers are looking for are career management and global intercultural fluency, which again, you're usually able to obtain by what's embedded in Holy Cross curriculum. Again, please feel free to ask questions throughout the presentation. So the elevator pitch. This answers the tell me about yourself. And actually, I should have given my contact information, and I can probably do that in the chat room. I have some elevator pitch worksheets that I can send to people if they want to be able to organize their ideas to develop this. Elevator pitch comes from the idea of, you know, if you're ever in an elevator with the CEO of your company and you've got 20 seconds to sell yourself on what you do and what you can do for the company, here's your opportunity to do so in an elevator pitch. And the elevator pitch usually aligns with tell me about yourself, which I would say 99% of employers ask first during an interview. So tell me about yourself. So you want to set the tone for the interview and provide answers to preempt basic questions. And then altogether, it should be a 90-second response. So the first 15 is personal. You know, for you at this time in your life, it's about like your major, activities or sports that you were involved in on campus. You can talk about your academics, anything that you've done or courses that you've taken that relate to this position, extracurricular activities and work. So any leadership positions that you've been able to obtain that relate to this position that you can sell. And then where are you going? What are your future goals? Like I stated earlier, the worksheet I have provides questions for you to answer. When you answer it, it's going to come out to be like a 5-minute elevator pitch, but it's just going to help you to organize your ideas so you can pull from it to be able to create this 90-second elevator pitch. And again, I can send my email if you want me, if you want to email me, and I could send that worksheet off to you. The elevator pitch, like I stated, it's not only just for interviews, like when you're meeting people, when you're going to networking events, if you're going to conferences, you know, you immediately meet someone and they're going to ask like, okay, tell me what you do, or, you know, tell me about yourself. So you always kind of want to have an elevator pitch rehearsed. And of course, it's ever evolving because you're going to either, you know, change which career directions you want to go into, or you're going to continuously be promoted. You always want to have a good idea of what you're doing and how you can add value to a company or whatever organization you're pursuing in the future. So to review traditional questions and behavioral interviews. So behavioral-based questions, I learned about them probably like about a decade ago. I don't know how old they are, but the whole concept behind behavioral-based interviews is that however way you handled a certain situation at any given time, they will ask you questions on how you handled that situation to see if the same behavior will be repeated. So usually they start off with, oh, tell me about a time when you had a conflict with the supervisor, or tell me about a time you your supervisor told you to handle a task this way, but you thought a better way, a different way was more suitable. They want to see how you responded back then. Was it appropriate? Was it inappropriate? And if it was inappropriate, what steps have you made to correct it? So they will ask you behavioral-based questions. And then traditional questions, you know, what are your strengths and weaknesses? Always have good, like, you know, 3 strengths weighed in and examples to provide that. So you can't just say, I have a good work ethic and I'm a leader and an effective communicator. Provide an example of when you did these things. In terms of weaknesses, they want a genuine weakness. So you can't just say, oh, I'm a perfectionist, or I have a lot of trouble saying no. No, they want a genuine weakness where you have failed at something, but then you also have to provide steps on how you're taking to resolve that weakness. So for example, like I say my weakness is public speaking. And what I do is I sign up for presentations like this to try to overcome that weakness. I still get nervous. I still had butterflies before coming onto this call. So still a work in progress. But yeah, that is my genuine weakness, and being able to articulate what I'm doing to improve upon that weakness so that it's no longer a weakness. Other questions that they can ask, why did you choose your major? I know Chris had shared with me before, a student asked a question on how to articulate having an international studies major, being an international studies major. And you really have to understand is, you know, one, why did you pick that major? And what have you learned that will translate into the world of work? At a liberal arts education, we believe in majoring what you love, because the degree you obtain doesn't determine the position you will get. And I know this for a fact. I've seen it, like there was a football player, he graduated, I think 18, 19. He was a sociology major and got an internship on Wall Street and is now working on Wall Street with a sociology major. So it's, you really don't have to worry of whether your major will deter you from, you know, getting your dream job. you know, even if you're a classics major or philosophy major, just being able to sell your experiences and some core classwork that you were able to do that will translate well into that position, that's all you need. And I'll discuss more about that later. Um, and yeah, sorry, other traditional questions like what are your career goals? Even if you don't know what you're doing 10 years from now, at least even after graduation, whether it's full-time work or going to graduate school, and why this internship or job and why this organization. They're definitely going to ask you that. And that's even something you should even be mentioning in your cover letters when you're applying to companies. When you're researching the organization, know their mission statement like the back of your hand. Go on their social media, any press releases, newsletters. You really want to know about this company so that one, you've demonstrated, oh, they've done their homework and they're genuinely interested in us. And two, to make sure that it is actually a company where you feel your values align with their mission, you're most likely to work harder for that organization. So definitely do your research. And why this job? You want to look at the job description and make sure like there are particular skills you want to gain. You know, things that they'll tell you that you'll focus on this, or this is the area that we want you to tackle within the first 6 months, and this is what you should be able to gain after the first year or whatever. Hopefully they provide that in the job description, and that's what you want to talk about during your interview with employers, these certain skills that you hope to gain out of the job, and then also what you feel you can bring to the table, how to enhance upon current skills that you have now. So how do you respond? Organize your thoughts before speaking, and it is okay to pause. So, you know, doing interviews are kind of nervous. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Practice, 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 I promise you. Quick little plug, in career development, we have this tool called Interview Stream where you can record yourself, populate some questions and be able to see how you've responded to these answers. Practice with your roommates, well, okay, you don't have that right now. Family members, you can do that. If for whatever reason you're not able to get onto our Interview Stream platform, just like record yourself. Practice, 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 because you're gonna wanna organize your ideas. Most of the questions that we provide, that I'm providing here, we also have handouts in our office or actually online that you can take a look at. Most of the questions that we provide are general questions that majority of employers ask, unless it's specific to clinical research or coding or accounting. Like you'll have to dig deeper a little for those, but most of traditional questions are not, you know, generally used across the board. So just practicing those and being able to organize your thoughts on, tell me about yourself. Why are you interested in this position? What do you know about our company and our culture? So practice is going to be your best bet before speaking. The reason why I say it's okay to pause is if you kind of get, you know, like caught off guard with a question, it's okay to pause, kind of like count like 3 Mississippis, and you do have to respond. What helps me is I actually try to repeat back the question. Kind of kills time, and I think maybe taking ownership of the question allows you to come up with an answer. So, okay, tell me about a time when I had to take the initiative. That is a good question. Let me think about it. And again, 3 Mississippis, you better come up with an answer, okay? My next point, clarify to make sure you understand the question, because employers will ask you the question, and if you're not answering the question, they're not going to tell you that's not what I asked you. Like they're just going to move on to the next question, and you don't ever want to miss an opportunity to sell yourself, to sell your experience. So if you need to, you know, repeat the question back to them to make sure you're understanding it and you are answering it, please do so. Use specific examples to demonstrate your strength. So I always like to provide concrete examples. You can't just speak in vague terms like, I have a wonderful work ethic or I'm a great leader. No, please tell me a time where you demonstrated your leadership. Well, when I served as a treasurer on the Black Student Union, or I was a publicist for the Holy Cross Journal, I had to organize a team and be able to delegate responsibilities. Or, Black Student Union, we had to put on this event where I had to coordinate logistics and I had to reach out to people and get keynote speakers, like walk them through the process. And I'll tell you how to do that later with a method that we use. But you have to provide concrete examples where you give a little brief background, then you get into the meat of it. You tell them the plot. What was your role on the team? What duties did you have to fulfill? And then what was the end result? And again, there really is no length of time. You kind of have to feel in the moment. Some answers to questions will be short. Some will be a little bit lengthier. You want to provide meat, a little meat. You want to be robust and thoughtful with your answers. You don't just want to cut the thing short and leave the person hanging. You also don't want to speak so broad and give all these examples of, oh, well, back in June 7th, 2019, it was about 47 degrees outside with a wind chill factor. I had a yellow backpack. You're giving so many details that these people are getting lost in your answers and they're trying to find out what the answer is. No, you can't do that to people either. So be thoughtful with your answers, be concise and straight to the point, but it shouldn't be too short that you're leaving the person hanging. You want to demonstrate that you're able to do this job based on, when you worked at this club or when you worked at this internship site or when you volunteered here. Be wary of extremely personal examples. Yes, please do, because I've done plenty of mock interviews, and yeah, another plug, we're here for mock interviews even during this summer. I get uncomfortable even with people I know when you get to use personal examples, of why you feel you qualify for this position. Tread lightly. I think the only time I've heard it be appropriate, and it's because of the students that I work with, if a medical school is asking, like, why did you want to get into this profession? Oh, well, because my aunt was sick or my grandfather died of this unknown disease or whatever. Like, I get that, and those are appropriate. I think it's when you get down into the nitty gritty, like, well, I haven't spoken to my mom in like 5 years and her and I have fallen out. And that's why I really want to give back to my community. Like, that's a little too deep and a little too specific. You'll make the person feel uncomfortable. And we don't want to, blow your shot of having a quality and thoughtful interview. Like I said, practice responses, answer the question, ask, and then stop talking. Like I said, don't get too detailed that you lose the person, and resist the urge to embellish. So, we're gonna know, like, if you haven't done something or if you tried it once and like you're embellishing, like, I'm this expert, they're gonna know. They're gonna know because they're gonna have to check references. So always be careful. Just state what you've done, whether you're proficient or you have knowledge of this type of work. So selling yourself, like I stated before in the previous slide, identify 3 to 5 specific reasons to support your case, and show enthusiasm for the job. So again, what I meant by robust before, I actually do like to provide a couple of examples to demonstrate my, leadership or my ability to do this job. And I like to use a variety, right? So, maybe you've done a lot of internships in finance and you're an econ major. And so you're speaking with like, Wall Street, and you can always go back to the finance internship you've done, but you can also talk about that time when you were an ice cream scooper for the summer job and you had to, monitor transactions or something. I don't know. Or, if you're looking at, nonprofit work. You can talk about your volunteerism. I love to provide a variety of examples throughout my resume and not always go back to that same one because it's targeted. Like that targeted finance internship is just going to answer all of these questions. No, be able to pull from everything, and not just jobs, your coursework. If there was some type of project that you had to do, outside of the scope of the major area, just really anything in life that you can pull from. I do love a variety of examples. And the reason being, actually, I should have said this before, my background is in human resources. So all I used to do was interview people, and even just like hearing from other hiring managers and even my bosses, they quoted the same thing. So yeah, providing a variety of examples. And it just shows you also how well-rounded of a candidate you are too, that you didn't just do this one finance internship, that you've done other stuff. I'm not saying every recruiter does this, but usually, no, okay, let me not use usually, sometimes. When you're coming in for an interview, because that hiring manager is so busy themselves, they may just get your resume, they might just print your resume that day. And it may even be their assistant printing their resume that day. So they have not had the chance to review your resume and everything that you have on it. So you have to know, again, like the back of your hand, your resume. You have to know everything you've done, even the things that you couldn't fit on your resume because you had to keep it at a page. Know the examples you're going to use that will translate well into this position. And you're going to know that beforehand. You may not know the questions that they might ask you. You might have an idea, but you have to know the job description and look at your resume and how they mirror. Like, what can I pick from my resume, my academics, that will translate well into this position? And they will give you an opportunity to sell yourself, but that's how you do it. You've got to know your resume. You've got to know the stuff you've done. Next point, articulate with modesty the reasons that you will benefit the employer. So I always say be confident, not cocky. Be confident that, like, okay, there's a reason why they called me in for this interview. They didn't. I'm competing with how many other candidates. So there's a reason I deserve this interview. Now I've just got to show them, and during the interview, as you're articulating your answers, also show enthusiasm, which can be hard because I know some students that I've worked with before had great answers when interviewing, but because they practiced so much and were so nervous, they sounded kind of like a robot. And, the answer sounded great, but, humans want to work with humans, right? So you've got to be able to kind of like relax and be yourself and show some enthusiasm. And it's really something as simple as a smile. Like when you're answering, smile. And if for whatever reason you forget anything that I've said today, if you forget to smile during the interview, just know that at the end of the interview, you do have an opportunity to seal the deal. So, as they're like, oh, thank you for coming in, you can just give a quick statement and say, I just want to let you know that you are my first choice. I appreciate everything about this company and your mission and your values. And I believe I can add value because of X, Y, and Z. I hope you would consider me for this position. Thank you for your time. Have a wonderful day. Like, you can say that final statement in the end if for whatever reason you just feel you didn't do, your best. And it's okay. I really don't know anyone who does their best during an interview. Even the experts. I've been doing this for over a decade, and there's still things I can work on, right? You can always be better. And lastly, I say, do not speak in generalizations. Please provide specific examples. And again, you'll find that on your resume, or if there's things that you do outside of your resume. Actually, there have been employers who have asked, can you tell me something that's not on your resume? So, whether you're like an avid surfer or, I don't know, like chess champion or something or whatever, any examples that you can pull, right? Chess, critical thinking. Any examples that you can pull from your life that will translate well into this position, please do so. And sidebar, when you're writing your resumes and your cover letters, you want to highlight those positions that will translate into the job that you're applying to. So again, as a recruiter, I'm not saying all, but some, when a position is posted and maybe 30 to 50 people are applying, as a recruiter, you've got to be able to like skim through these resumes and see who's qualified. One tip is to always insert certain words, certain keywords from the job description into your resume and cover letter. I know I'm going off topic, but I just want to give you this information. Because most companies use an employment tracking system. So as your resume is uploaded into their system, it will match you to the position 100% all the way to 0%. So if you're able to pull certain keywords from the job description and insert it to your resume and your cover letter, don't plagiarize, don't write verbatim, don't lie if you haven't done it, but if you have done it, please pull those certain keywords and put it into your resume when uploading. And then in recruiters, as they're reviewing their resume, they've maybe got 30 seconds to quickly review it. And we as humans read top to bottom, left to right. So anything related to the position, I like to put that at the top of my resume. And I'll probably use the category like related experience and training. So maybe you've done some amazing internships, but you're applying for a nonprofit job. So maybe you want to move leadership and volunteerism to the top, so they can see it. Oh, this person has done service. Oh, they were a leader, and this is how they organize their projects. Okay, I'm gonna pay a little bit more attention to this person. And I'm not taking away if you were an ice cream scooper during the summer. I'm definitely not taking that away. It's just maybe we'll put that towards the bottom so that we can highlight the positions that you've done that relate to this position. So yes, that's my little sidebar. So next slide. The STAR method. So we like to use the STAR method to help you kind of like organize your ideas and articulate what you have done that will translate well into this position. And it's an acronym. So S to describe the situation that you were in. T for task, what needed to be accomplished. A for action, what steps did you take to accomplish that task? And then R for results, what happened. This is how most of your answers should sound when answering the behavioral-based questions or the traditional interview questions. And in my head, it kind of sounds like a story, right? Like there's a beginning, the princess was in a castle, and then the angry witch came to get her. That's the plot. And then the prince came to save her. That's the action. And then results, they rode off into the sunset. Like it should sound like a story when using the STAR method, or basically anytime you answer a question, there should be a beginning, a middle, and an end. And it flows like a story. When you're writing essays in class, you have a topic sentence that sets the scene. And then, the body of the paragraph, you're providing evidence. And then the final sentence is your thesis or your conclusion. Like it summarizes everything. That's how your answer should sound. If anything, it should just flow like a story, beginning, middle, and end, so that the employer doesn't get lost in what you're saying and they can understand it. And they'll nod their heads up and down whether you answered it or didn't answer it. So again, always make sure you're understanding the question before you answer. YASO's cultural wealth. I wanted to put this slide in here because actually it was Melissa Alves, former Associate Director of Diversity Inclusion, who introduced this to our office. And I think it's great for students to understand, first gen and our students of color, to understand the cultural wealth that you bring to employers that you may have not even realized. So like by sort of definition, I mean, it's a theory, right? YASO's cultural wealth is the ability to identify the unique skills and traits and backgrounds that you bring from your cultural background into this position. So, and I have some examples here. So students whose parents immigrated to the US and had to translate for their parents, so, here you are as a young child or a teenager having to take up some leader position to advocate on behalf of your parents. First gen or Pell eligible students have how to navigate college life, right? You constantly had to be up on the deadlines for all of these for all of the paperwork that needed to be submitted for these loans or for these scholarships. And then how do you allocate those funds to books and tuition and housing and food? Like those are real advantages. The ability to handle your finances in such a young and vulnerable way, that is a huge asset that you can bring to the company. So please be aware of that and talk about that. And I also talked about resiliency, the ability to hold on to hopes and dreams even when they don't have the means. So the fact that you're ambitious and you're motivated because of your background, for where you came from, or some trauma that happened in your life or whatever, the ability to overcome that and move towards your dreams and goals, no matter what obstacles, no matter what barriers, you're still able to overcome and persevere and go after your goals. So these are all things that you can bring to the interview. And I just provide a little chart of things that you probably never thought of before: aspirational capital, family capital, linguistic capital, cultural capital. This capital, this is your wealth. These are your unique traits that you've acquired over time that you can bring to any company, and any company would appreciate to have them. Any questions, please let me know. So some of you can either, like, I don't know, take a screenshot or take a video of this. This is like a little worksheet that I would normally have students complete so that you can begin to identify what your abilities are and how that will translate into the positions that you're applying to. So looking at your academics first, your major, certain projects, certain research that you had to do. I know the academic internship expo is coming up in the fall. So, just kind of reflecting on those things and see how, what are the takeaways that you can apply. Work, again, any jobs, whether working in the dining hall or any internships you've done, look at your skills and abilities. And also, if you're able to, moving forward, again, sorry, sidebar, moving forward, any job that you do get and they provide you a job description during your offer, keep those job descriptions, because when you're working and you're doing so many things, it's really hard to kind of write down what you do. You forget, maybe you can't organize your thoughts that well at that time. So keep the job description, always keep it handy so that you can use that on your resume to describe the type of work that you've done. Leadership, again, any type of leadership roles that you've held while on campus, whether it was in a volunteer role or working on a club, please be able to describe on your resume and identify here so that you can sell it during a job, all the roles that you played and the tasks that you had to complete. Athletics, being a team player, or if you were team captain, volunteer, extracurricular, again, maybe you were team lead on some type of service project. I know a lot of students work for working for Worcester, and there's some type of site manager. Lived experiences, again, that's where YASO's cultural wealth comes in. Strengths and attributes that you feel you can bring to the table. Again, not just stating it, but actually providing examples of when you were an effective communicator or you were a strong leader. Values, being able to articulate your values and what it means to you and how it aligns with the mission and values of the company that you're applying to. And then interesting goals. Again, you may not know what you want to do like 10, 15 years from now, but what you perhaps might want to do, or what it means to you, even if you think it's some type of pipe dream. I don't believe in pipe dreams. I believe in all dreams can be obtained. But, put that down and be able to like create a plan on how to navigate that and achieve that dream or goal. So, please use this worksheet to just really help you kind of organize everything that's going on up here, put it down to paper so that you know the different jobs, the different skills you need to pull from, so that when it comes time to apply for that job and interview, you have a working list of things you've done, and you can articulate your responsibilities to that employer. So additional resources that we have in career development, we can do interview strategies or mock interviews. If you just found out you're having an interview like, Friday, and you don't have time for full hour mock, we can do a 30-minute strategy meeting, and we can provide you some questions that they might ask you. Mock interviews are a 30-minute interview where we've pulled questions by doing research or asking previous students who have interviewed for that company or that particular role. So we have a list of questions that we'll ask you for 30 minutes. It'll be a full serious interview, and then we'll provide you feedback for the next 30 minutes. So that is a full hour for a mock interview. Interview stream, it is located on one of the resources in Handshake. So if you go into Handshake, click on Career Center, click on resources, you'll see it as a list of resources. This gives you the ability to record yourself on how you're interviewing and be able to actually populate questions that they might ask you. Outside of this pandemic, I mean, obviously a lot of interviews have been moved virtually, but even outside of that, I think a lot of companies are kind of moving towards like the first round of interviews being virtual. One, it's just more cost effective and it's a time saver. So like I've worked with students where, they had to upload a video to like YouTube or something, or so being able to practice how you interview in a camera is so important, because right, you got to make sure you're not like, I don't know, like scratching your head or picking your nose or like tapping or cracking your knuckles or whatever habit that you're not even aware of. That's why it's good to do a video of yourself while interviewing. Handshake, that's where all of our internships and full-time jobs are posted. During this pandemic, alumni have really stepped up. We've reached out to them. I mean, the Holy Cross Network was amazing anyways to begin with, but we as an office reached out to alums to see if they could provide some type of like remote internships or full-time jobs, micro internships, and then also using the hashtag CHC, which means Crusaders Helping Crusaders. So that means we have an alumni connection. So when looking for jobs, I always send students to Handshake, because if there's an alumni connection, we'll put the alumni's name there so that you can contact them, because they want you to contact them so that you can ask those questions. Okay, tell me more about this job. What was your experience like? What's the company culture like? So, and you should do it. Like whether you feel like it or you feel weird about reaching out to some stranger, you should do it, because employers are also expecting you to do your homework. So do it. And then the HC network is our homegrown alumni directory. It started about 2 years ago. We reached out to alums, and they volunteered their contact information so students can reach out to them. So that's listed in the resources page. So Handshake, Career Center, resources. You'll see the HC network. You create an account, username and password, and then like you create your profile, and it kind of looks like LinkedIn. So you'll see alumni's profile picture and where they're currently working, where they live, organizations that they were a part of while on campus, any sports, any internships they were involved in. You'll see that on their profile. We roughly have about, maybe 2,000-3,000 alums on the HC network, which is great, and we're building it. If you need to branch out, LinkedIn, College of the Holy Cross has its own alumni page where there's about 31,000 alumni registered. So definitely broader. You can filter your searches by what they studied, where they live, where they work. So please use those to your advantage, especially now. I know, unfortunately, some positions got canceled or there's some hiring freezes. That's just now. You know, states are starting to open up, companies are starting to open up, and employers can't start from scratch. They're going to need a pipeline of people. So like day one, when they're ready to hire, when they're ready to interview, you're already on their radar, you know? So you have to start, this is the perfect time to start building that pipeline and reaching out to alums and scheduling informational interviews with them. And just to quickly tell you like what an informational interview is, it's really just to obtain information about certain positions or to learn about people's career paths. And I can help you with that and crafting those emails. But, you know, as you're doing your searches and you see somebody that you're interested in, you know, you can reach out and say, you know, dear Chris, my name is Shirley, and I'm currently a senior at the College of the Holy Cross. Well, sorry, you don't have to say College of the Holy Cross, they know. I'm currently a senior majoring in biology. I have an interest in research. I find what you're doing to be interesting. Could we get together and have a virtual chat or a phone call so I could learn more about your career path? And you always want to say career path, right? Because, you know, it's just going to make them feel so good, like, oh, they want to learn about me and my path and the steps I took to get here. Like, it'll make them feel so good that you reached out to them, you took the initiative to learn what they're doing. And, you know, that's how you would craft that email. And you want to build your network so far out, just because, right? Even if you meet somebody that you're not necessarily interested in what they're doing now, you don't know what they're going to be doing 5 years from now. They could be your boss in the future. So you building your network now is just so important, especially during this time. But even outside of this, you know, LinkedIn stats, 80% of positions are filled through referrals. So you're right, the who you knows, but I also don't think it's just about jobs. It's just kind of also learning about the process and learning about particular positions that you never ever heard of and might be interested in. Maybe you thought you wanted to, you know, do a job in marketing, and you have an informational interview with someone in marketing and you're like, I hate your job. Or maybe I hate where you work, but I want to apply a marketing job at a different company where I align with their missions. Informational interviews are just a really great way to learn about the different options out there, the different paths to those careers, and just to build your network. So if you forget anything I say, please email me.
Shirley, can I just add a couple of things before we get to Q&A?
Mm-hmm.
So in talking, just want to echo your point too about like the highlighting or the being able to diversify kind of like your portfolio essentially on your resume. So like, I'll just give two quick examples. So like, for example, if let's say your involvement has been pretty heavy on like student government, for example, you want to make sure not to be only talking about student government and have that be the only thing reflected on your cover letter, resume, or just like interview in general, because again, you want to make sure that you're able to talk about your vast experiences is not just one. And one of the things that I know Shirley got to, but necessarily wasn't like straight up mentioned, is the sense of customer service, right, in a leadership position. And I think that's often something that's overlooked as you're doing it. So for example, if you are part of a spring break immersion program or a service program that goes into Worcester, like you're practicing customer service, and that is a huge skill that you need to talk about. And I think that's one of those things that kind of like goes over people's heads, and they do it every day and they're good at it, but they don't know that that's something they do very well. So that's just something to keep in mind as well. And then another resource that I want to add to this is some of you might have heard about like the Clifton Strengths Assessment or just like personality assessments in general. But just to let y'all know that Clifton Strengths is free for Holy Cross students, and it's a huge tool that gives you a lot of language to talk about yourself. So I was going to actually also say that for this group, I think what I'll do is work with Shirley to put it together like an email and then include a lot of the resources we've been talking about. So one being the elevator pitch worksheet, the chart that was a few slides ago, and then like links to Handshake, links to taking the Clifton Strengths Assessment if you haven't taken it. And then also kind of like that offer to do follow-up meetings, you know, whether it's with career development, whether it's diving a little bit more into strengths and what that means for you. And then if you have very specific questions about like how to market, at least for me, how to market your personal student leadership experience, because I'm more than happy to sit down with you and talk through how you can do that along with other things. So I just wanted to mention that before we get into like the Q&A.
Yeah, that is such a good point. Clifton Strengths, like, y'all should just take it. Like, just like, it's really not up for negotiation. Just take it. Because like, right, it's so hard as an interviewee to talk about yourself, and sometimes even uncomfortable, and you're trying to think like, what the heck is it that I do? what value can I bring to this company? So Chris did Clifton Strengths with us, and I was like, oh, this makes complete sense. This is why I'm like neurotic. And you know, one of my first strength was futuristic. Like, I'm constantly thinking about the future. So I'm a visionary, right? And it's in my cover letter. And I can tell that to people, like, I am a visionary. I know what's best for your company and what to do for the future. But it will just help you, you know, get the juices flowing and help you really think about what your strengths are, because those are your strengths, right? You're not just making it off the top of your head. This validates what you're good at, and the employer should take advantage of what you're good at and what strengths you bring to the company. So yeah, it shouldn't be an option. Just take it. You'll love it.
Yeah, I think with that said, we could get into questions that people have. You can either put it in the chat or just like unmute yourself and ask the question in general.
Yeah. I can escape out of this. Stop sharing. Let's get friendly again.
Any questions for Shirley or myself?
We'll be getting emails after.
Yeah, I think that's fine. I think, right, it's also important to know that you know, everybody has their own unique experience, right? Like, involved in different things in a different major, going through different things in life. So I guess trying to take this session and reflect on it a little bit. There is going to be another resource put out by I guess the college, because the college is the one that owns the contract. But essentially, it's a tool for you to create your own e-portfolio. So it's a chance to kind of put everything together so that you can reflect and refer to in preparation for like an interview. So thinking if you've done like a major research project, like being able to put like a summary of that and then a picture of it, so that like, you know, you can reflect and like, this is what I did, and prepare for something like an interview, for instance. That's very vague, but like, it is going to be a good tool that I think students can start working on, you know, throughout the summer, since they do have some more time to start building this stuff. And hopefully that will help influence, like, you know, your resume and your cover letters in the future. But if there are no questions, I just want to thank Shirley again for being here, being able to present, and all of you for showing up as well. And both, like I mentioned, we'll send up a follow-up email with all the resources, but then our contact information as well. Shirley, do you have any last words?
No, I'm really appreciative. Like, thank you for showing up. That's the first step. So thank you.
Thank you all so much.
Bye.
Bye.
Have a nice day. Have a nice week. Have a nice
Thank
summer.
you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome.
How was it?